woman planned on being president, there would have to be a heavily manipulated image presented, which would counteract this current very negative image in the public eye. And the only way to do this at this point is through this technique called the Delphi technique.
Yeah.
And the Delphi technique was developed so that an audience can be manipulated to arrive at a predetermined consensus through the use of facilitators, so that, for example, when Hillary Clinton would go on television, it's always going to be in the format of a town hall meeting, and this is because this is the structure and the format of the Delphi technique. Everything is hand-picked and very carefully orchestrated so that the individual does not receive any negative questions from the audience and is able to very easily control the audience in the way that she responds to the questions that she is asked.
Very interesting. So this is this a standard procedure, this Delphi technique that you talk about? Is this kind of a a historical method that they have been using for a long time?
Yes, it has. It was developed for education and for the purpose of parents and other community people who had come in to try to change the way their children are being taught in local school districts and school board meetings and public hearings related to public education. And in terms of education, this is called the Alinsky method. So they changed the name a little bit.
Okay, I see.
In terms of how this is being used for politics, you see that there is a very careful grooming that takes place with every one of these candidates, where they are literally taught how to behave while they're in front of the cameras to elicit the most positive possible response from the target audience.
You call this power stance, right?
Yes.
Tell us about it.
The power stance is a way of the individual standing, and it's also a way of how they use their hands and their fingers to make gestures while they're speaking to underline certain points that they are making in their speech. And basically, if you notice, or if you haven't noticed, look for this in the days and weeks and months ahead, you will see that oftentimes a politician will point to the audience with their thumb where their index finger is draped around their thumb so that they're not actually pointing at anyone. And they do this because it's perceived to be a positive thing from the audience.
Non-threatening.
It's also perceived as not being, this lady is lecturing me.
So this is psychology 101, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. One thing that I'm reminded of here is a documentary called Spin by a guy called Brian Springer. Have you seen this?
No, I have not.
I'm gonna make sure that you receive the link so you can watch this, because this is a guy who actually cut together from different satellite feeds. When they cut to commercial in TV station feeds, they're actually still broadcasting through another channel, and they just relay the commercial to the regular station, and the feed continues on another station basically. And what this guy did, Brian Springer, is that he recorded the feeds, when they're off air, so to speak, when they still sit in front of the camera. And actually are, they're giving pointers, they're giving hints, they're giving notes on how to behave, how to point, what to say, how to say it, and all this stuff that you talk about. So I think that this would be a very interesting and important, I guess, contribution to that. So I'm going to make sure that you receive that link.
Yeah, thank you very much. That sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
I am looking very forward to seeing that.
Yeah, very, very nice. Yeah, so I'm going to send that along. One thing that you also brought up in your article was how they, I guess, managed to strike two flies in one strike, so to speak, in regards to Bill Clinton and Hillary as the subject of a cheating husband. Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, this is in reference to the Monica Lewinsky situation. And when I saw that happen, I kind of got the impression that it was a manipulated situation, because it was just so bizarre, and it was so different from anything that we had ever seen in terms of, professional behavior, in terms of a president. And I looked at that as being not only an opportunity for them to denigrate the office of president and to actually belittle that office in the minds and the hearts of the American public and the people of the world, and also to take the opportunity to make Hillary Clinton look like a persevering, understanding wife who would live through this very negative public affair, which became very prominent in the news during the time it was taking place. And so when I saw that happen, I was thinking in the back of my mind, okay, they definitely have some plans for her, and it's going to unfold in the years ahead. And this was one of the things that kind of got my mind thinking in that direction. And that's when I started to compile the dossier on Hillary.
There is a connection between the Bushes and the Clintons, and then one thing that came to mind was, here in Europe we have our kings and queens and so forth, and that is something that America doesn't have, but it seems like this have been replaced by a political kings and queens, basically, where we're having I guess intermarrying political families and stuff like this, but there is a connection, I think, between the Clinton and the Bushes, and tell us more about that.
Yeah, the Bush family and the Clinton family are an interlocked, what I describe as a crime family, and many people agree with this interpretation. For example, all of the children of Barbara and George Bush Sr. are in one way or another experts in certain criminal areas. For example, their son Neil Bush is an expert at stock market and banking fraud, and he played a major role in the savings and loan scandal in the 1980s. And you go through the entire family and you find that every one of the sons participates in one way or another. Within the past 2 years, approximately, the Bushes and the Clintons have made an effort to be photographed and videotaped together at various public events where they are making comments such as Bill Clinton saying, "Barbara Bush is my adopted mother," and they are seen at these public public events, standing next to one another,
Sure.
and sharing jokes and having a good time. They're being photographed on the golf course,
Yeah.
and so forth.
Sure, sure.
And this was, in my mind, an effort to relate both of these families together in the minds of the people seeing these images, so that they would see Hillary as a natural progression.
Amazing. Yeah, you know, this reminds me also of there have been lots of news in regards to the relationship between Hillary Clinton and Rupert Murdoch, who of course is the, you know, the media mogul behind Fox News and all of, you know, what on the surface are seeming like, you know, conservative media outlets. But do you think that Fox News is something that, you know, they will be able to use in regards to actually later on, I guess, promoting Hillary? I at this point, I don't see that the relationship has started to play out in regards to that Fox News are promoting Hillary, but this is something that might change. But are you aware of this kind of relationship between Murdoch and Hillary?
Yes, absolutely. You know, this is very interesting because Fox News is looked upon as being the propaganda arm of the Republican Party here in America. But if we look at it a step backward, if you will, closer to the core, if you will, what we then find is that Fox News are propagandists, period. So if there is some sort of a role to be played here, Rupert Murdoch is perfectly positioned to be the person to do that media preparation, if you will, of Hillary to be president. However, the other thing about this is that they try to carefully manipulate people into believing that there are differences between the Republicans and the Democrats.
Sure, yeah.
And so that may not be anything more than a financing situation in terms of seeing her like pasted all over Fox News, you know, daily. I'm not sure we'll see that, but we'll certainly see an influx of funding coming in from that direction to her campaign, which we've already seen.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, again, so this is also about shattering the illusion that there actually are any differences to the parties up there, and this, of course, obviously, you know, connects with the Hegelian dialectics that we might get into a little bit more later on when we speak about false flag operations and so forth. But again, this is a tactic that they use to set up these different camps to get people divided, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a moment ago about America not having any royalty, and I'd like to comment on that, if I may.
Sure.
In the 2000 election, a man by the name of Harold Brooks Baker, who is the spokesperson for this genealogy service based out of England called Burke's Peerage, had made public statements to the effect that in every single American election, from George Washington, the very first president, all the way to George Bush Jr., the 43rd president, and this would include Hillary as the 44th president, every winner of every election, with no exceptions whatsoever, has been the candidate with the most ties to the royal bloodlines.
Except John Kerry, right? Wasn't that
John Kerry actually was related to royalty as well.
Yeah, but wasn't it that the only I totally agree with what you say, and I've heard this before